Now loading.
Hello.
Hello.
How we doing,
So
man?
I'm really excited about this because we first met at the In Reflection pop up event.
That's the one, yeah.
That was in December, November or December. But that
Yeah,
that
that was
event,
a while ago.
that was yeah. That pop up event itself was super inspiring anyway. But it's really cool when you can go to an inspiring event like that, pop up event like that, but then you can also meet people that are also super creative and inspiring as well. So it was great connecting with you as well. And when we started having a conversation about the stuff that you were doing, and automatically I was like, holy shit, like I haven't come across anything like this before. Um, so yeah, I was super intrigued about what you were doing. Um, yeah, and obviously since then we've stayed in touch, and um, I went to your exhibition recently.
Yeah, man.
No
Thanks for
worries.
coming.
But before we get to that, I actually just want to know, where did this whole question mark theme come from? Like, what was the foundation of it? Where did it come from?
Hmm. The
Also,
origin
your brand
story.
as well. How did that come together?
Yeah, I mean, the question marks, obviously, they're like such a huge part of everything I'm doing creatively as an artist. So I think for me, it's kind of important to have like a clear story as to like how that came about. And to be honest, I think the actual origin of the question mark thing came about from one of the first sculptures that I made that I think you would have seen at the exhibition.
Oh
It was
yes,
the piece called "Any Questions," and it was like
yes,
the big head with the split.
yeah, yeah,
And so like the left half is like a brain full of question marks. So that piece actually just started off as like an idea that I wanted to create as like a sculpture. I didn't have my mind like set on that whole like question mark concept.
right,
I was like gonna be creating things like exclamation marks and like
okay,
putting like emojis and
yeah,
stuff in like the halves of the brains. But
yeah,
yeah, I realized I think as I was working on that piece, that like the question mark thing actually had a lot more to it than I initially thought.
okay,
And then there was other ideas that started popping up, and ended up working on like another piece alongside that was obviously also question marks. So
yeah,
yeah, so that piece essentially kind of sparked everything that I'm doing now. So I don't know if there's like a way to show it on the podcast or whatever, but
yeah,
yeah, that piece started everything really.
yeah,
And yeah, like you might think initially like, oh, a question mark is so like simple. It's just like a punctuation mark. Like
yeah,
how are you gonna create so many pieces of art like from something so simple? But when you like you just sit down and sort of have like a little brainstorming session, there's so many things that come out from it. Like it can represent like worry, inspiration, creativity. There's all these different emotions that I think depending on who you are as well as a viewer of the work, you can interpret
right,
it like differently based on your own like mental state or how you're feeling. So yeah, there's depth to it, I think, and it's fun. It's fun to come up with like sort of less serious and sort of more like fun and playful ideas with it as well. You'll see
yeah,
like some of my work's a bit more kind of like bolder colors and like more playful in terms of like
yeah,
the concept.
yeah,
But then some of my other work's a bit more like a bit more deep, makes you think.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I was inspired by how you were able to think of different ways of using the question mark and
Mm.
packaging the question mark in different ways. And I think, and you're still coming up with um, new ways of repackaging the question mark to create art as well. So I thought that was super creative. Um, but let's get on to the exhibition you just did, your first solo exhibition. Um, no worries.
No
And
worries.
yeah, that was went to the opening. Super amazing show as well. Loved the venue as well. And I loved how the different pieces, the pieces that were in all white, um, were on one side, and then the other pieces um, that were in had more color were on the other side. It showed like the contrast in characteristics as well. Um,
Yeah, man. That so the exhibition sort of. I know I told you when we first met like last year that I had like something kind of in the works in terms of a like an exhibition, but there was nothing like date wise confirmed. But then the actual confirmation for the dates came, I guess, for an exhibition kind of last minute. It was like gosh, like less than a month before the actual show. We were like, okay, let's
yeah,
lock in these dates because I've got obviously we'll come on to talk about like New York and stuff, but
yeah,
we basically wanted to lock in doing the solo exhibition in London before I went to New York next month.
right,
So it was pretty hectic and a bit stressful trying to get everything ready for that, especially being that it was like my debut solo exhibition. There's like
yeah,
a lot to learn as you go, like how to actually properly curate an exhibition and set up a space. But the gallery, they were super helpful with all of that. And originally, like I wanted to try and create the exhibition purely from the No Worries collection, which are those
okay,
all white pieces. Because I actually have a few more pieces that weren't on display from that collection.
okay,
But in the end, I think I really wanted to show like some of the newer stuff that I'd created with color,
yeah,
rather than just trying to put on a whole show white walls with white pieces. I think it might have been a little bit dull just to have it like that. But like you say, we had the one wall with pieces that were just purely from that collection,
right,
and those pieces were essentially trying to represent visually like an emotion or a feeling.
mm-hmm.
And so those pieces are a bit more deeper in terms of like the concept that I'm trying to like visually show to people.
Mm-hmm.
But then obviously on
And
the other
they felt
side,
deeper as well, to be honest.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
definitely like there's more to talk about in terms of like what I'm trying to show through those
mm-hmm.
pieces of work than some of the work on the other side of the room that's a bit more sort of fun and sort of like
Digestible.
uplifting. Exactly.
Yeah,
Whereas the ones on that side, the white ones were definitely like I keep saying, like they're a bit deeper. They can make you feel definitely make you feel like a certain type of way, whether it's I don't know, kind of reflecting on like how you're feeling or I don't know, maybe some people might see it and feel kind of like more of a negative feeling, like kind of sadness or like kind of worry in some sort of way. But
yeah. There's
yeah,
different ways to interpret it, really. And I
for
think
sure.
because it's plain, it allows other people to add their own um, ideas to it.
Yeah. I
They
mean,
might start looking at it in color automatically.
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean
so
the lack of color in those pieces was also intentional because it's almost like a way of letting the actual shape and the form of the work do all of the talking because obviously color is such an important like part of a piece of art. It can it can add to the overall meaning or the emotion. So actually working just in like a blank, like a just the white blank pieces, you're not almost like relying on color to add the emotion. The emotion is
Right.
purely the shape and like what the formation of the question marks actually
Mm-hmm.
represents. So
Mm-hmm.
that was really important. I'm glad that you picked up on that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I wanted us to just briefly go through the different pieces though that were on either side um, of the room,
Sure.
um, and just give me like the first thing that comes to your mind when I say them, right?
Okay,
Um, and then we can talk about our favorites. I know it
for
might be
sure.
hard for you to pick your favorite because it's like picking your favorite child, but
No, I
we
definitely
can
have
figure that out.
favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely have favorites.
yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah, we can do that.
Um, so flow state.
Mm.
What's the
I mean,
first
in
thing
one
that
word,
comes to mind?
I would say like in one word, just
A word
focus.
or a word or phrase.
Yeah, I would say focus. So that piece of work is basically just trying to represent, if you could visualize like a brain or like your mind when you're in the zone, everything's sort of just working. I mean, I'm sure people can relate to this. Like you're sat at a computer or you're doing like a job or like a
Right.
task and everything's just like just working. It just clicks. That's kind of what I'm trying to represent with that piece. You're in that flow state. Your mental state is just flowing. So the
Yeah.
question marks are like neatly ordered, sort of in like a flow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
focus.
Focus.
Yeah.
Hide.
Hide, I would say almost like embarrassment. So that piece is, if you look at it, you can see there's the question mark in the middle that's being kind of squashed in and
Mm-hmm.
hidden away. And for me, that piece is sort of like, imagine you have like a big idea or like something that you want to share, whether it's like you're at a job and you're in a meeting and you're asked like, oh, can you give some ideas or whatever, but you don't have the confidence to like actually put that idea out there into the
Mm-hmm.
world. So it gets suppressed by like all of these other thoughts, whether it's like your worry or your fear of kind of like making a fool of yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
hide would be, I guess, being too embarrassed or not having the confidence to share that bold idea.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, outside the box.
Outside the box, I'd say one word would be creativity, just like simply just creativity. I mean, the title kind of speaks for itself. I think that's like another part of my work. I think the titles, I try to pick a title that can almost in some way explain the work in itself.
Okay.
So outside the box, it's kind of just like, it's one of my simpler pieces. It's literally question marks that are positioned outside of
Mm-hmm.
a literal box. And obviously we know that the phrase like thinking outside the box, it's a little bit cliche, but I think some of my work, I like to play on those sort of like cliches and just visually show them. So like
Mm-hmm.
thinking outside the box, you're being creative, trying to think differently and like push forward like new ideas that are outside of that so-called box.
Right. Um, any questions?
Any questions? Um, that one, probably, I think it's harder to put that into like a one word, but that piece for me basically represents someone who their brain is just full of questions and is trying to show visually like you can see the shape of the human head and all of the question marks, basically like mapping out the shape of a brain.
Mm-hmm.
But the brain is just full of questions, ideas, thoughts. So again, with the title, it's like another classic phrase of like, any questions? Whether it's like at the end of like a talk or end of a meeting, like I say, someone will always ask like, so any questions? And it's like trying to take that, like that phrase and just put that visually, like, people have all got questions, people have all got ideas, thoughts, worries that are just sort of like hidden away in their brain, but
Right.
often they don't share.
Yeah, it's almost like when that question is asked, um, the people that they're asking in their brain that starts to activate. So
Yeah,
the visuals of any questions that activates. So in the person's mind, there's so many things, so many ideas that are popping up and activating in their mind when when that's
exactly.
happening. So that's cool. What would be cool about that as well is like being able to see, so like have somebody being able to see like visuals of the different ideas that
Mm.
people are having in their mind at the same time as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot you can do with the concept, I think, because it's so relatable. I feel anyone can look at that piece of work and think like, yeah, I got stuff going on in my head that like I don't want to share with people, or I don't want people to know about, whether it's like secrets or worries, stresses. So
Yeah,
I think that's something we can all relate to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Thinking of you,
Which one? The painting or the sculpture?
the painting.
The painting. So those two pieces are kind of like, they're like a almost like a pair. So they're both based on the same concept, but the painting was, that was the one that came first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess the summarized version of what that piece represents would be, I'd probably say like affection,
Okay.
and like the whole idea of giving flowers to someone. Obviously, the painting depicts like flowers that are made up of question marks on the petals and leaves. So the concept behind that one is, again, the title, thinking of you.
Mm-hmm.
When you're thinking of someone you love or you care about, often the action that people do is, send flowers or give flowers.
Mm-hmm.
So that was basically me trying to paint like I guess that kind of feeling towards people that you care about, basically. So, you love someone, give them flowers. It's a good gift.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. And I
so
guess the question
again, yeah,
marks. Yeah, go on.
that one isn't. It's like I was saying. That one is less of like a deep kind of like, what does your brain look like? It's more of just like something sweet, something simple of like the act of giving flowers. Like, how could I paint that using the question marks?
Mm-hmm. Um, Thinking of you, the sculpture.
Yeah. So that one, again, it's the same concept as the painting, but I really just wanted to take the flower and try and make something sculptural. So when I first started working, I was kind of doing a mixture of sculpture painting, but very quickly, I think I found that sculpture was just like way more comfortable for me and a lot more, I guess, enjoyable. So
The process, the creative process.
yeah, the process from everything from like ideation to like actually creating the model,
Mm-hmm.
that's just something that I'm way more comfortable with than like sort of classic, like traditional painting or drawing. So
Is it because you can actually touch it?
Yeah, I think there's something more tactile about it, and also, a lot of my work relies heavily on technology. So the
Okay.
sculptures, the sculptures are all created with like 3D printing technology. So for me, that means that I can, rather than having to like sketch out on paper, I'm way more comfortable with using like computers to digitally design work. So
Okay.
I often say to people like, for me, 3D software is like my digital sketchbook.
Ah,
So like a lot of artists I know will like sketch out on paper in like a big sketchbook full of like these incredible like hand drawn like
yeah.
ideas and stuff. But for me, I've got like a little like a portable SSD. That's my sketchbook full of like, I guess, these 3D models and stuff that I've put together. There's a lot of stuff that I've created that hasn't been like physically realized yet. It's just on the
Okay.
computer. But
Okay.
for me, I'm way more comfortable like if I have an idea like with the flower, just sit there for like a few hours and just like modeling out the shapes.
Hmm.
It's way more
Okay.
comfortable for me.
So with the some of the ideas that you kind of have
Yeah,
stashed away that you haven't put out yet,
yeah.
do you think those might be part of something else that you end up doing, like a piece of the next thing, or do you think you
Yeah,
might?
there's definitely ideas for works that I've sort of started to work on, and then something else has come up. And often the case of like being an artist, you have like a bunch of things on at the same time. It's never the case that you're just working on like one piece. There's always
Yeah.
like three or four things going on. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll be working on something and realize that actually this piece, I think I'm going to hold it away, and later on when I'm working on like a specific collection that
Yeah.
that piece kind of fits into,
Yeah.
like thematically, then I'll come back to it and then basically complete the piece.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
Where were we?
with the we were looking at the different pieces from No Worries.
Yeah.
Um, Tranquil.
Yeah. So
Yes, one is one of my
that
favorites, to be honest.
it's one of my favorites as well. Um, so that piece that has a bit more of a backstory to it actually, because that piece was inspired by one of the trips when I was in South Korea. Um, I
Okay.
think, and I think this will lead on to sort of more of what we're going to talk about in terms of like um, my engagement with like Korea and stuff. But
Yep. Yep.
yeah, that piece, we were in Korea and we were like hiking up to one of the Buddhist temples, and there's like these rock towers that people who go up on the trail, they'll stop and they'll like stack up a few rocks and they'll add
Hmm.
to other people's rock towers. And I just remember seeing that and thinking like, wow, like that's so, there's something so peaceful about where I was. And then to see these like rock towers perfectly balanced was just kind of like where the title came from, was like, oh, a sense of tranquility. So
Yeah. Okay.
I had the idea for something like that, how could I create something that would almost look like one of those stone towers, but using the
Hmm.
question marks. And so the idea of like tranquil and tranquility and sort of that inner peace that people are like searching for.
Hmm. Yep.
And I think the question marks sort of lent themselves to that quite well, obviously being tranquil and feeling that sense of inner peace
Hmm.
is all down to your mind being sort of calm.
Hmm.
Um, and I think when I was working on that sculpture, trying to get the question marks to sort of almost look
Hmm. Do I
impossibly
hear?
balanced.
Do I hear?
There you go. Love it. Little postcards that we handed out.
Yep.
Sweet, man. Yeah, so the question marks almost, they look kind of impossibly balanced on top of one of each other. Like
Hmm.
they shouldn't be able to stack that way. Obviously, there's a bit
Yeah.
of sort of engineering that went into to getting that to stand how it does.
Very.
But obviously when you see those stone towers in the real world, they are properly like balanced, and sometimes you look at them and they're like, how is this even possible? So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a sense of trying to create something that looks almost magical, but you know, you almost look at it and you think, wow, like there's a sense of calmness in the way that these pieces and these question marks are like perfectly balanced. You know, some people might look at it and think the opposite, like it's almost a sense of like precariousness of like how this tower could topple at any moment. But
Yeah.
for me, it's the opposite. I think it's almost like how perfectly balanced and aligned everything is that it can balance in that way. So yeah, there's a bit more of a backstory to that.
Yeah.
And the way that I was actually like visually inspired by something that I saw when I was out in Korea, I think it sort of holds a lot more meaning and like personal meaning to me, that piece. It's probably why it's one of my sort of more favorite ones as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like when you're just looking at it can bring a sense of stillness as
Yeah.
well. And yeah, and also it depends on how you look at it too. If you're starting from the bottom, going up, or
Yeah.
starting from the top, going down, it's a different experience when you're looking at it. So
For sure.
that's the cool part as well. And seeing that so many of the question marks are being held up by the question mark at the bottom. There's a question mark at the bottom, right?
Yeah. There's
Yeah, yeah. So
the big one that's slaying.
yeah, so that itself can make you feel like, okay, this is how I need to be. I need to be calm. I need to maintain a certain level of
Yeah.
stillness.
There's like
So
the big one. The bigger ones at the bottom are the ones that are like grounding the ones at the top. So
at the
it's,
top, yeah, and it can
again,
also
that's
represent,
another way.
yeah, it can also represent like knowing how to manage, knowing how to stay calm when there's loads of challenges, loads of
Yeah.
things you may have to um, deal with at certain periods of time. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
this is
But
what I
then at the
love.
same
Like,
time, it looks like an art piece as well. So it's like you can look at it from face value and just see an art piece,
yeah.
or you can look deeper into it and understand. Okay, the question marks represent something bigger than that. So
And that's what I love about the process of creating these pieces is that some people can look at it and just enjoy it for, you know, like you say, face value, like a nice looking piece of art. But then other people like yourself, like you sort of get the concept and you can have these conversations about things that the art might represent that, you know, I didn't even intend. And I think that's what makes it fun and sort of keeps me going is the always sort of like looking forward to showing it to people and being able to have these conversations. And like I'm finding out things about my work that like I didn't even think of. So like
yeah,
it's really fun to see how other people interpret the work, and that's what I'm going for really. I'm trying to make work that anyone could look at and have a completely different opinion on it than someone else. So there's definitely that's something that I'm like really sort of I hold like quite important in my work. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm glad that you can see other meanings in it
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
absolutely, yeah, definitely. So we have the inflated expectations.
Yeah, this guy.
And that's right, but exactly right. That's right behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
two paintings kind of like live on the shelf here, kind of behind me,
Okay.
because that's I haven't just put them there for this. That's where they actually
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
where they live.
Yeah.
But yeah, that piece again was one of the I think it was one of the first like large scale paintings that I did after
Oh,
sort
I've
of.
got this one too.
There you go. I've got one here as well.
Yeah. We got it. We got it.
I've got a big stack of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that piece, like I was saying, like one of the first sort of like larger scale paintings that I worked on after sort of being set on the whole question mark concept And that piece, I'd say it was kind of inspired visually by, you might notice some of the earlier work that I've done is
Mm-hmm.
there's like elements of other artists that I'm like obviously quite clearly inspired by, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, quite elements of some of
Cause, yeah,
Cause's
yeah,
paintings
yeah,
with that sort of bold, kind of like big
yeah,
shapes.
yeah.
Um,
And it almost like it's bold, but there's like an airiness around the boldness.
yeah.
You know, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's important to, you know, like credit your inspiration, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very open, and I'll happily, I can talk for hours about Cause and like other
Mm-hmm.
artists that inspire me. Um, but yeah, this piece, in terms of the actual concept behind it, the balloons, they kind of represent like aging and like getting older, and how like on a birthday, like typically you'll have balloons as a way to mark like a milestone or like a celebration. But then
Mm-hmm.
along with that, there's like the kind of, it's nice that I can kind of like visually
Yeah,
like point
exactly.
while I'm
Yeah,
talking
you
about it.
can. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a kind of like there's the bigger, the dark blue balloon that's sort of looming behind in the background,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah,
the painting's trying to represent this sort of sense of like uncertainty with aging, and how, you know, typically a birthday or like an event or a party would be a time for celebration. It could also be a time for kind of, you know, reflecting and thinking about the future and what that brings, the sort of
absolutely.
hardships and
Mm-hmm.
worries about, you know, getting older and
What's next?
what's next. Exactly. Like, you know, some people, what's next can be like a really exciting thing to think
Yeah,
about, but then other people trying to think about, you know, what's next in the next year, the next 2, 3 years, that could be like such an anxiety for other people. So
yeah.
I think that's the kind of vibe that I'm trying to show. There's obviously the colorfulness and the playfulness of the balloons at the front,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but then there's like what looms over all of that is kind of
Mm-hmm.
the uncertainty. And the title again, like inflated expectations, kind of, you know, the expectations that you have for the future can sometimes become inflated, and you sort of,
Mm-hmm.
you might have hopes for the future, but they might not be realistic. Or
Yeah,
again, the worry of, you know, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? So that's kind of
yeah,
what I'm trying to show with that one. So yeah,
yeah. Um, a song came to mind as you were
yeah,
talking about those balloons.
yeah,
Uh, you know, 808s and Heartbreak.
yes,
Yeah, 808s and Heartbreak.
of course,
Streetlights.
yeah,
Apparently, Streetlights is based on a balloon.
okay,
That's elevating and floating up in the air. So the lyrics are centered around a balloon, essentially. But
interesting,
there's a line that Kanye says on the song that's quite interesting, where he goes, "I know my destination, but I'm just not there."
yeah,
You know, so it's like it kind of ties into what you're talking about in terms of, okay, in terms of like the next, what's next, the next chapter, like a milestone that comes up. It's like you have an idea of where you're going. You're not there yet, but there's that anticipation, there's that excitement, there's that understanding that, okay, along the way there might be challenges, there might be different obstacles, but I'm going to continue to allow my curiosity to just keep guiding me along the way. So yeah, that
yeah,
came into my mind when you were explaining the balloons.
yeah, man, I love it. It's like, it's quite poetic, and I think it's really just like a painting of like life in general. Like we all like, no one's gonna live a life without hardship. I mean, if you are, then
Yeah,
lucky for you. But
yeah.
I
You're not.
mean,
Then you're not real. You're not real.
yeah, you're like an AI.
Yeah, exactly. You're fake.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
we're all on like a journey to, you know, whatever it is that we're kind of working towards, and what comes along that on that journey. So yeah, I'm sure we can again all relate to that in some way.
definitely, definitely. That's also an amazing piece as well. I love the colors. Was there a specific um reason why you chose those specific colors, or was it just random?
Um, yeah, I mean, often like you can get into like sort of bullshitting about
Yeah,
this
yeah,
color
yeah, yeah,
represents
yeah, yeah.
this.
But there
We allowed
are,
to swear on this show? Are
of
we
course,
swearing
yeah,
on?
of course,
Okay,
because
cool, cool.
there are like specific meanings behind colors in
For
general.
sure.
So was
Absolutely.
that something you kind of lean into, or it was more okay? How do I feel this should look like, and I'm just gonna go with these colors.
Yeah, I mean there's other works that I've done. I mean even like this the red painting here, like that's a
Hmm.
good example of how obviously color can represent emotion. This piece
Hmm.
is literally titled Anger, and it's sort of trying to
Okay.
represent what the brain looks like when you're sort of angry and you're
Hmm.
feeling like a sense of anger. So,
Hmm.
you see
Yeah.
red. So that's a very rudimentary example of like how color
Hmm.
theory represents emotion. But for this
Yeah.
one, like more it was more about like trying to pick colors that just sort of look nice together. And
Okay.
I guess there's elements of like using sort of primary, like basic colors to sort
Hmm.
of show a sense of, I guess, playfulness and like,
Yeah.
like you go to like a kid's birthday party, there's going to be like these very basic primary colored
Yeah.
balloons.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess that's more of what I was going for, to just sort of
Okay.
like show a sense of like bright colorfulness rather than like this. The green one represents like this
Yeah.
emotion. It's
Yeah.
less of that and more just trying to create an overall sense of that playfulness with the darker one looming in the background.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah,
What are those? What's I can see some like small. Are
this
those small? Yeah. What are those?
this is this is one of my more recent pieces. This is like a huge cereal bowl.
Oh, that's sick.
This is quite
Really?
heavy. So this one
Okay.
wasn't in the exhibition because
Okay.
it's sort of didn't really fit into the space. But yeah,
That's sick. That looks sick. So what's that about?
this one's called Food for Thought. So it's like
Ooh. Okay.
another one of those sort of like, I guess, common expressions, or like
Yeah.
less common, but it's like a phrase that
Yeah. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
said at times, like food for thought,
Yeah.
and trying to, again, in like it's one of my more playful sort of like fun
Hmm.
pieces, trying to
Yeah.
show a bowl of cereal. I guess
Yeah.
the visual is kind of like trying to, I guess, look like Fruit Loops, if you
That's
like
what I was
familiar with.
thinking. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we've got like the colors of, or similar colors to the Fruit Loops, trying to get
Hmm.
that visual there. But yeah, for me it was like I tried to bring in the meaning of like how when I was a kid I used to always eat like cereal like in the morning,
Okay.
and how that was always a time for me, like first thing in the morning you have like your bowl of cereal and you're like fueling yourself for the day ahead and
Yeah.
thinking of like, what am I going to do on this day, and
Yeah.
trying to visually show that. And I think it turned out like way bigger than I was initially expecting. Because like this thing's massive. Like you see me holding it, it's like it's a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all of the question marks on this one are like, they're all like, you can take them all apart. They're all like,
Okay. You
I
can take
haven't
them
like,
apart.
you can take them off. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, I guess it's kind of,
You can take that one off.
which one?
Just to demonstrate. Just any of them.
Yeah, this one,
Yeah.
blue one here. They just
Yeah.
all come out. I guess it's like
Okay.
half of it was like me thinking of transportation and like logistics,
Oh. Okay.
but also just the fact that like, a bowl of cereal, like they're just little pieces that are all just
Hmm.
stacked on top of each other. So
Yeah.
yeah, but mainly for transportation, because I'm
Okay.
potentially going to take this to New York next
Ah.
month. So
Okay. Have you thought about the logistics?
yeah, definitely. Like we've
Yeah.
got two weeks left. So
Okay.
if I hadn't got a plan in place by now, it would have been a little
Definitely.
bit
Definitely.
irresponsible.
Definitely take that to New York.
Yeah, yeah,
They will eat that up.
literally,
Pun intended.
pun intended.
They will eat that up. Yeah, definitely take that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I'm
Yeah,
glad you like it.
yeah,
You spotted it in the background.
yeah. Okay, so with with the No Worries exhibition,
Yeah.
how did you feel after you did it? Just in general, what was the feeling? How did you feel?
Uh,
This is your first solo exhibition.
Yeah,
that
I
you
mean,
put together, and people have come to it, and you've done something at a small. It's on a small scale. You're getting instant feedback. Um, you're seeing things that you've worked on be on display. How did that feel? Because what I've realized is in life in general, you need to appreciate like every stage of the journey. You know,
yeah,
every milestone, um, every type of win, the big wins, the small wins. So how did you feel?
yeah. I mean, you've already put it pretty well in terms of like how it was like so great to see all of that work displayed properly in a space as it should have been displayed. I think the initial feeling was like just I was so tired.
Oh,
Um, like you got to be realistic. Like
yeah.
I think part of like what I aim for in terms of like being an artist, I want to be relatable as well. And so number one thing was just I was so tired. It was the build up to it was like a lot of prep. There was like a few all nighters where I had to stay up just prepping things, prepping packaging. Um, there's a lot of logistics that go into being an artist and putting on a show like that a lot of people might not actually realize, and I didn't realize, doing a solo exhibition compared to like a group show where you've got like just
Got extra help.
one or two pieces of work and you're not the only artist. Yeah, doing a solo show is like there's a lot to consider, a lot to prepare, even things down to like the sculptures that were on like the white plinths, like getting
Okay.
those and stuff. Like there's just so many things to consider. But
Yeah.
obviously I was exhausted, and the opening night is like always it's tiring. You've got to talk
Yeah.
to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But no, aside from that, like yeah, it was quite emotional, I would say, in a way, like
Okay. Okay.
because there was people that obviously it's great to see friends and family and like people like
Mm-hmm.
yourself who came that I already knew, but there was people that came from like they traveled from like other cities to come
Wow. Yeah.
and see me on the opening night. There was one
I
kid
did meet
like
someone that came from Birmingham,
yeah,
actually.
I
Yeah.
was this that was the guy I'm going to talk
Yeah.
about. Like I say kid, he's not a kid, he's a young adult, but like
Yeah.
he said he was a student. Yeah, came down from Birmingham on the day just to come to the opening, and like that was just amazing. He was saying how like how my work had inspired him to learn about 3D printing technology and sort of made him want to get into art. And yeah, it was meeting people like that that was it sort of made it all worth it, all of
Yeah.
the effort, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to sort of interact with people like that
Mm-hmm.
I never met them before, but
Yeah.
they were almost like quote unquote like a fan of my
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really surreal. So yeah, definitely like sent like elements of feeling sort of emotional. Um, there's a sense of accomplishment, um, and also like you say about like marking the moment and trying to like you know this every step on the journey. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you have like a
Yeah.
milestone or like an
Yeah.
achievement, I was
Yeah.
really trying to like soak it in because your first solo exhibition as an artist, like hopefully in 10 years, like I'll look back and think, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was a
That
really
was the
cool, like,
foundation.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that
a
was the
foundation.
foundation. Yeah.
And to see, like, hopefully in 10 years, like what I've accomplished by then as an artist, and what I've been able to contribute to art and to people, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll look back and think, oh, that was a good way to
That was
start it
like a
all off.
moment.
So,
Yeah, that was a moment in time.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So, like, even like the posters from the show, like, I've got like this on display, like,
Ah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be able to look back and think, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a cool debut show,
Yeah.
man. So
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Did you get any? Did you get any like feedback from anyone in particular that was um, that made you think a little differently about things, or made you um, that opened your mind up, maybe? Or was there anything anyone came to you to say? about the show?
Um, Probably like the people that had come, like traveled in to see the show, that like that were just, they'd followed me on social media for a while and came to see my work. I think people like that were, they were the ones that sort of made me realize that like, oh, like the work that I'm doing actually has a bigger purpose than just making a piece of work because it looks cool. Like, I'm actually having an impact on people, whether it's like inspiring them to pursue art or
Hmm.
pursue like a creative, like a hobby or something like that. So less in terms of like actually like how I create my work, but more in terms of like what I'm creating my work for and like what
Okay.
purpose my work has. I think
Okay.
that was really eye opening to be able to see like the impact that my work is having on people.
Hmm.
Because when you're just creating work and posting it on social media, like obviously you're getting somewhat like instant feedback from people, but
Hmm.
it's less it's less kind of like visceral compared to
Hmm.
like someone actually traveling 2.5 hours on a train to come and see
Hmm.
your show, a
Yeah.
complete stranger. Like that was really amazing
That's
for me. So
dedication. That's
exactly.
like the work you've done has inspired them that much to the point where they're like, okay, I gotta go and see it in the physical. I gotta
Yeah.
actually go and see it. I gotta go. I also have to go there because I want to meet people that are also inspired the way I'm inspired. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be able to connect with people that are also maybe on my wavelength in terms of what I'm interested in,
Yeah.
in terms of like your work as well. So
I
I
mean,
think
even like the people at the exhibition, like on the opening night when it was like the busiest, it kind of felt like almost like a little, like a mini like club of people that we all sort of like understand art, and sort of like we all understand like almost each other, and like we all get each other in a way, like
yeah, yeah.
complete strangers coming together for that exhibition.
Hmm.
I mean, I saw it, like I noticed it was so great to see, even like yourself, like you're chatting with other people, and like
Yeah,
it seemed like people were having like really kind of like deep creative conversations, like
yeah,
just because they were here to see my work,
yeah,
like, and how
yeah,
that sparked other conversations like unrelated to my work. So
yeah,
yeah, super encouraging to see, and like
yeah.
definitely gonna act as like motivation to just keep pushing it and
Definitely, yeah.
yeah, keep going.
And that's what, when we were talking at the opening, what I was saying about design in general
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily have like, I would say, like a creative underground kind of scene, the way
yeah,
other spaces have, the way fashion has, the way music has, where you can present something um, at a smaller scale
yeah,
and to people and get that instant feedback. You know, fashion has it, music has it. You can be like an upcoming music artist, have a show, 20 people show up, you'll get instant feedback. Or
yeah,
you could be a fashion designer, upcoming or emerging fashion designer, and present your work to people at present your work to people at a small scale and get feedback. When it comes to like design, when it comes to like art and sculptural type work, you don't really get that as much. But I
yeah.
think what you're doing is like you're part of that ecosystem that's growing, where it's gonna continue to happen. So yeah, I was literally. It wasn't even my show. It's not even my show, but I was literally standing there and soaking in the energy because I
Thanks,
was
man.
like,
Appreciate it.
wow, okay, I'm looking at these people here. I can see these people here. I can see the work, the music that you were playing as well, the music selection. Like I
Little
heard you were
playlist. Yeah,
playing Nas "The World Is Yours."
yeah,
At
man.
one
Yeah,
point that
like
was playing, and I was like, wow, okay, Nas "The World
that's
Is."
my playlist as well. Like that's the stuff I
Okay,
listen to. So
yeah.
that
So I
yeah,
was hearing,
even the playlist.
okay. So I was hearing
So
that. There was a period where okay, that's playing, and your pieces are there. I'm seeing all of these people come, they're connected, and they're talking as well, and I'm like, wow, okay. And
yeah,
this is
I'd
like
also
an
I
intimate.
like that. I'd like to say as well on that on the music thing, like there was a little even the playlist that I picked, like I was trying to like match it to the vibe. So the first song in the
Yeah.
playlist that was playing is do you know Loyal Kana, the rapper Loyal Kana? The very first song that is in the playlist is literally called No Worries.
Oh,
So
okay, okay,
yeah, so
okay,
the first line of that song starts like no worries. So like when
okay.
that song comes on, it was almost like the intro to
Yeah,
the show in a
to the
way.
show.
I remember listening to that song and thinking like I basically just went on Spotify and searched no worries to see what
To
came
see
up.
what came
And I
up.
was like, oh, like Loyal Kana, I already like him as a rapper. Like I like his music. And he had a song called No Worries featuring other rappers. And I was like, yeah, that's got to be the first song. So
Yeah,
lots of MF Doom in there as well. I'm a big MF Doom fan.
the
So
theme. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
man.
Yeah.
Lots of old school stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was great too, and obviously it was a Friday night too, Friday evening. So
Yeah.
it just felt like a great vibe. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just felt like a great vibe. So when it comes to creating content in Korean,
Yeah.
so yeah, so tell me about that. Like when did you start doing it, and how has that been? Because that's what that reminds me of. You doing
Mm.
Korean content. It reminds me of a music artist who makes music in English, but then they've made a version of that album in another language. So
Mm.
maybe they've made it in there's a Spanish version or there's an
Yeah.
Italian version. So that kind of reminded me of that. You having content that's strictly Korean. Yeah. So how did that come about? And yeah, how is it? How's it been?
Yeah. There's probably like, there's a bit of backstory I think that's required to sort of get us to where we are in terms of like, why is some like English dude doing Instagram content in Korean? Like it's not very common. And I'm
Yeah.
always having to
Yeah.
explain to people like why, like what's the reasoning behind that?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the short version, it's a long story, but the short version is basically when I was in college before I moved to London for university, like, one of my classmates was just like writing something like in class. They were writing their name in Korean, and I was obviously at the time not familiar with Korean at all. And I just asked them like, "Oh, like what language is that?" Like, and they were, "Oh, it's Korean. I'll teach you how to write your name." And so they did, and it's weird because that's like a very like clear memory that I have of like the sort of start of why I actually went on to learn Korean. And so yeah, she taught me to write my name in Korean, and I remember it clicking. I was like, "Oh, this is like I like this." I almost very quickly like sort of got the language and got like the way that the symbols connect to make different sounds. And I just basically went home that night, went on YouTube and just searched like how to learn Korean, and just started from learning the characters, learning the alphabet, the Hangul, which is like the different symbols that connect to
Mm-hmm.
make sounds. And that was like, gosh, like 8 years ago. So since then, like I moved to London for university, and I was lucky enough to actually have a lot of Korean friends in my student accommodation where I lived.
Okay.
So I had a bit of a cheat code in terms of like being able to very quickly learn a language, because I was like
Yeah.
immersed with friends and like
Yeah.
going out drinking and just
Yeah.
experiencing a new culture through them directly. Yeah, so I very quickly was able to pick up the language, and then my partner now, she's also Korean, and I think it was sort of her. It was her idea really to start doing content in Korean. I think it was just a way to sort of be different and to almost have like a USP, like a
Yeah.
unique thing that set me apart from
Yeah.
others. I think you could argue that, you know, I could have just made content in English, and, you know, I may have still had like a similar amount of success very quickly. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the Korean, the culture over there and the way that people in Korea interact with art, I think is quite different actually to how we interact with art in the West. I think
Mm-hmm.
the West definitely, I think the whole art world in general is a lot more kind of traditional in a sense, and a bit more kind of classical, if you know what I mean. So
Mm-hmm.
over in Korea, definitely, I think people are a lot more open to this sort of like newer, new ideas, and like very sort of experimental and like technology and things like that. So
Yeah.
I think Korean people seem to connect with my work well. Obviously, it helps that I'm an English dude speaking Korean, so there's like that instant level
Yeah.
of like, oh, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, this guy speaks Korean and
Yeah.
his art is cool, and I want to follow him. So that's definitely helped me in terms
It's
of like,
that element of surprise, maybe.
definitely, yeah. Like
Yeah.
if you're scrolling in your feed, and then as a Korean person,
Yeah.
imagine like you're scrolling and then like I
Yeah.
pop up, and then I'm
Yeah.
like showing a piece and saying something in Korean. They're gonna be like, oh, that's very
Whoa.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like
You
what's
don't see this
happening?
every day.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
very aware. I'm very aware that it's not like quote unquote normal, like what is normal, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not something that you'd see every day. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm aware of that, and I'm trying to almost just use the language ability that I've like put time in to learn. It'd be
Mm-hmm.
a shame to like not use it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost just trying to utilize that, and use it as like a tool to connect with a wider audience. Because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'd very happily just do social media and like post my work
Mm-hmm.
to English speaking viewers, but
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got the ability to connect to a whole other culture and a whole other group of people in Korea. So I'm trying to utilize that as a tool to push my work out there, and
Yeah.
hopefully inspire like a completely new group of people that
Yeah.
otherwise I wouldn't be able to connect with at all. So yeah, it's tricky. Like it definitely adds a whole new element in terms of like content creation.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like the term like content creator, because it's sort of like, you know, I'm an artist, but
Yeah.
I think in this day and age, like social media is like so important as in terms of
Yeah.
like getting your work out there, whether you're an artist or a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are like building careers because
Yeah.
of something that went big on social media. Like
Yeah.
the fact that you can post a video and it can just like blow up, and
Yeah.
you can almost set yourself up for like a whole career
Yeah.
just using social media. It's like you're missing out by not being on social media and
Yeah.
getting your work out there to people. But yeah, like my partner, like she helps me a lot with it, because, you know, she's Korean. She's obviously a lot more understanding of the culture and like what works and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll help me like with writing scripts and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I actually feel like from doing my content in Korean, I'm like learning a lot more about the language as well. Like being able to talk
Okay.
about my art in Korean is like, I would have never been able to do that. But since actually making the videos, explaining my work in Korean, it's like just learning like a whole other part of the language that like I just didn't know before. So
Yeah.
it's a lot more of a challenge than simply like putting a camera down and just showing my work and explaining it in English. But yeah, it's quite rewarding, because I mean the feedback on social media, like I started posting, gosh, like I think it's less than a year ago. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
August last year I properly started posting on that account, and
Mm-hmm.
already like it's, you know, we've got 13,000 followers. It's like never would have imagined that. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of
The
crazy
energy
in a
is
way.
crazy. I've watched a lot of the videos, and the energy, the comment section is crazy.
Yeah, some of them have gone crazy. Like
Yeah.
even the cereal piece, the bowl that I showed you earlier, like that
Yeah.
one, the video of that just went like massive. It's got like, I mean, views and all like likes and stuff. They're all
Yeah.
just numbers, but the fact that a video of me showing a piece of my work got like over 1
Mhm.
million views is like, that's just crazy
Yeah,
to me. Like I
yeah, yeah,
can't quite put that into perspective. It's weird,
yeah,
but yeah, man,
yeah. And also, being able to talk about your work in Korean is probably making you more comfortable speaking Korean as well, right?
for
Because
sure.
it's something personal to you that you're talking about. So you're definitely, I guess you're getting more comfortable speaking Korean, right? Because of that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tricky at times because especially like on the opening night for the exhibition, like there was definitely like a number of Korean people there, like friends and other people who had come to see me that I didn't know. Um, but then you're having a conversation trying to explain your work in one language, and then someone else comes and they ask you, and you have to then switch to English, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, yeah,
then you're like, yeah, you speak English as well. Yeah, let's just do English. So
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
definitely like it's interesting, like
yeah.
the way you have to like almost flip back and forth
Hmm.
between languages.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Is your
definitely like
approach different? So when you're making
um
English based
yeah.
videos, so compared to when you're making Korean based videos, is your approach different in terms of how you present certain things, or do you standardize it?
No, I think you have to change your approach because I think like culture is really important, especially you know going from like a Western like in the UK, like the culture here compared to Korea is like it's just different, and you have to be sensitive to that and be aware of that, and understanding how different cultures interpret things differently. So
Hmm. Okay.
like it's not like a huge difference, but I've noticed like the way social media works over there, like what works well in terms of like how to make a video that's going to go that's going to perform better than like another
Hmm.
video, for example, like the way that you start your video with that like hook, like
Okay.
look at
Yeah.
this piece of work, like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, obviously like it's similar, there's similarities, like you want to like try and hook your viewer in
Yeah.
to get them interested in what it is you're trying to show. um but I think I'm trying to think of like a an obvious difference, but
Hmm.
no, I think it's just in general like being understanding and like being there's almost like a sense of you have to be cautious to like be respectful of culture, especially when
Hmm.
I'm just like a an English dude
Yeah.
trying to like bust my way into
Yeah.
like the scene in Korea. So there's
Yeah.
you definitely have to be careful and respect that you're not it's not normal like
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I think people have been really positive and
Accepting.
like really accepting of like what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And I'm also again like just always trying to be cautious that I'm not almost trying to take advantage of the fact that I speak Korean
Hmm.
to just push my work
Hmm.
onto like a group of people. I think mainly for me it's just a way to get out there to more people. But people have been super supportive. Like
Yeah.
I don't notice like people being negative particularly, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think people are just sort of there's a sense of like fascination as to
Yeah.
like why like but like curiously like why oh like this is so weird like but in a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So yeah, like just trying to be careful like with
Yeah.
culture, but yeah, you've always got to be respectful of others. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Having awareness, having
of
that
course,
awareness, that empathy as well. So
yeah.
that makes sense. Um, I wanted to talk to you about just the general creative process when it comes to you making art and sculptures. Are there any principles or like creative commandments
Mm.
that you kind of go by with each piece of work that you make? Obviously, with every piece of work has a different approach, maybe, or a different angle that you're taking. But are there like core things that you kind of take with you with each piece that you make?
Yeah, so the whole like the actual creative part of like my practice and like going from an idea to creating like a final piece. Yeah, there's definitely things that like I have to consider, like if a piece is even like feasible to create. So a lot of the time, really, the things I'm considering are more like technical things. So like, for example, with the flower sculpture, for example, like thinking almost with like an engineering mindset of like
Okay.
how do I create this piece in a way that's actually possible to create, because you've got like the flowers, like the stem, the petals, there's the leaves, and trying to think like, am I going to create this piece in one solid piece that I'm going to end up sanding for like a month, or do I end up like actually spend more time in the computer designing and getting this sculpture almost to like, it's like a little engineering project of like, I get it in separate pieces where I can then reassemble it later. So
Okay.
that will be like one of the major like kind of technical things that I have to consider is like, how do I actually create this piece that I've got the idea for? Because I'll have a lot of ideas that when I actually sit down on the computer and I'm thinking like, how do I make this? Like, how do I actually make this idea? Like, it's just not possible with like the technology. And that's another thing, like with 3D printing, that's like my main medium with sculptures. I'm using 3D printers as a tool to actually turn a 3D model that I've created into a physical model. There's a lot of technical challenges with it. And I think, again, with my work, like one of the nice things about social media is I'm able to show that process and that technology, whereas a lot of people may not be familiar with it and just think that, you know, 3D printing, you just press a button and then wait an hour and then, whoa, you got a sculpture. There you go. Let's exhibit this. But there's a lot more to it. Like, like technically, like how do I print this piece? Because there's a lot of times where I'll like print something and it will just fail. Like you'll end up with just a mess. Like the print will fail and then you've wasted like 12 hours. But like less technical though. I think I'm always trying to think in terms of like the concepts of what I'm creating. Like, is it interesting? Will people get it? Like, is it something that people can actually understand without having to read like a page of text? I think that's a really important thing with my practice, is that I don't want people to have to like read like a long like paragraph of text to then be like, oh, okay, I get it. I want them to sort of be able to look at my work and think, oh, like, or like take a step closer and think, oh, that's like, I see that, like, I see this, or I feel this. It almost needs to like kind of transcend like language. Like anyone can, doesn't have to be like, oh, you have to read this piece of paper to then understand what it is I'm trying to do. Obviously there's elements where like I'll have a piece of work and then there's maybe a piece of text that can then sort of enhance your understanding of it. Even with the exhibition in London, like you obviously had like there was a guide to the exhibition that sort of explained the whole concept in general. But I want people to look at a piece of work and just feel something almost instantly, or be able to just get it sort of almost straight away. So that obviously plays a big part in then actually how I visually create the work, because obviously that's critical to me. Like I want people to just look at it and not have to like read
too much. So you want it to be
read a book.
You want it to
exactly
be to a certain degree be digestible enough, right?
Yeah, and there's an element of like sometimes art, like part of the fun of art and going to see art is that there's almost like a bit of mystery to it, of like, oh, what is the artist really trying to portray with this work? But my work definitely leans more onto the side of like being able to like instantly sort of get it in a way. Like there's pieces that I'll create that, you know, people may not get instantly. Some of the work, for example, in the No Worries collection, the all white ones, where it's like they were just question marks, sort of like intertwined in like a
Yeah,
shape. Those ones,
yeah,
maybe a bit more tricky for people to get instantly. But I think there's still that element of like you can see the work and think, oh, like you've got the question marks, like what do they
yeah,
mean? And it sort of
yeah,
gets you thinking straight
yeah,
away.
yeah,
Whereas, I don't want to create work where you sort of stand in front of it and you're thinking like, what the heck? Like, what is
yeah,
this? Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. I mean, that
yeah,
just comes from my experience with art and like how I can go to a gallery and sometimes I'll look at work and I just don't get it. And
yeah.
I think that's okay. Like we have to realize that, everyone's different. Everyone likes different stuff. Everyone, has their tastes and their preferences. But if I can make work that really appeals to like a broader audience and that is digestible and easy to kind of understand, then,
Hmm.
you know, that makes me happy. That's like I've done my job in a way.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
But
probably
I
one of the
think that's
main
what,
things.
yeah, I think that's what the thinking of you sculpture, that's what it
Mm,
did to me when I was
yeah.
at the show. Because I looked at it, I saw a flower,
Yeah.
right? But I didn't realize there were question. It was made up of question marks
Yeah.
initially, so I was drawn to it straight away. And then as I kept looking into it, it was discovered more things. So I think your work does both. It
Yeah. I
it
actually have
attracts you
one
to
here.
it, or you have it.
I have like I'm actually making some more of the same piece but just different colors. But like
Okay.
I have like the prints here.
Oh,
Like
okay.
so this is like the flower section of it.
Yeah.
This is just
Okay.
straight off the printer. So like very
Oh,
rough.
yeah.
Like there's a
Oh,
lot of
cool.
work that goes into
To making
getting
that.
this
Yeah.
getting this to like the actual final thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you were saying about like the leaves and the petals being question marks that
Yeah. I
you,
didn't
you didn't
realize
instantly
until
get that.
yeah until I got closer to it. I even had to tell someone next to me, like, "Oh wait, these are made up of question marks." I didn't realize. So
Yeah,
at first, at first, I saw the flower and I said, "This is cool." And then
yeah.
as I looked more into it, I saw the question mark. Then that led to me thinking even more about, okay, so these
What do
flowers
they
are made up
represent?
of question marks. So it could mean, okay, you're getting these flowers for someone. In the process of you getting flowers for someone, you're thinking about what why you want to get them for them, or the
Yeah,
occasion, or how do you want them to feel after they have received the flowers. That's when I started to piece up everything. So I think your work has both. You can see it at face value and connect with it, but
yeah,
then as you peel the layers back and you go into it even more, there's so many more ideas that become that appear pretty much.
yeah. That's
So I think
literally
that's
that's like
great.
it's a perfect example of like of what I'm going for with it. Like you said with the flower, like you look at it and you think, oh, that's a nice. I like that flower. But then
Yeah,
without even having to read anything, you suddenly you're like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that's a question mark. Oh, I
yeah,
see. And then it then sparks that kind of like
yeah,
thought process of like
yeah.
what do they represent? And then it's the perfect concept because like my work is revolves around question marks and like literally you're looking at my work and then you are thinking, which is
Thinking, you're
again the
asking
question
questions.
mark.
You're
Yeah,
asking yourself questions. You're thinking about different things, and
yeah,
even with the cereal, um, even with the bowl of cereal,
yeah,
I can guarantee you, when you take this to New York, people are gonna see the bowl of cereal and say, "Oh, look at this big bowl of cereal."
yeah,
And then as they get next to it, oh, these are question marks.
yeah.
They're gonna see the question marks, and then that's gonna lead to even more. So yeah,
That's it, man. That's exactly what I'm going for.
yeah. So everyday items, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on incorporating the question mark theme into different like everyday items?
Yeah, so that's actually like the current collection that I'm working on basically takes that idea of, almost taking everyday objects and transforming them using the question mark. So the collection is called Objective, and so
Okay.
the flower, for example, like that's part of the Objective collection. Um, and I'm basically trying to take like like a mundane like object that you interact with on a day-to-day basis and think like
Mm-hmm.
how can I in some way using my question mark make something that kind of makes sense. So
Yeah.
this is maybe like a very first look at this piece of work. I don't think I've shared this at
Okay.
all, but
Okay.
this is a piece of work. This is a
Okay.
phone. This is an iPhone.
Oh.
So this is like
Okay.
a very rough print.
Yeah.
Um, you see the back is like very rough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this is like a good example of that. How like taking an object like a phone, for example, like
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty much like to scale as well. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
the same size
Yeah.
as an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this one, for example, I've taken the iPhone and basically using question marks, I've shown how almost like technology is so ingrained in our minds that like you
Mm-hmm.
look at like this, for example, and it's like our thoughts are almost like connected into the phone because we
Yeah.
spend so much time on like
Yeah.
social media, like
Yeah.
scrolling, and really just trying to like look at it like is it positive, is it negative, like
Yeah.
do we actually benefit from these devices, like are
Mm-hmm.
they actually good for us? So
Mm-hmm.
it's trying to ask that question with like an
Yeah.
everyday object. So the
Yeah.
phone is like a probably the most commonly used object that we
Yeah.
all have.
Yeah.
um but
Almost.
yeah,
I
like
almost. It almost feels like the speed of being able to transport thoughts and ideas to people.
yeah,
That's what the phone has allowed us to do as well.
for sure. But like there's I'm trying to see if there's any other things I can show. It's nice to be able to like actually show you as I'm
Yeah.
talking about it. But yeah, just like
Because this morning
yeah,
I was thinking about like a cabinet handle
mm,
that had a question that was the question mark theme. I was just thinking about little. It just came into my head this morning. I was just thinking about because I was thinking about okay, what objects, what everyday objects would Aiden be thinking about?
yeah. I mean, it's
And
cool because it kind of leads into like obviously artists like there's different types of artists. You have like artists who just paint, for example, and just do it for the
mhm,
passion. But then at the end of the day, like I'm a commercial artist. Like
okay,
I'm thinking of ways that how I can turn not only like through the art, I can turn
hmm
my ideas into like a product as well, for
hmm
example. So like leading into that, like I've got this was like an early prototype of just like a drinks holder, for example,
okay,
there's like a mat,
like a
just
coaster.
things like a coaster,
Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah, yeah,
just like a very boring object, how you
yeah,
can turn that almost into like a mini piece of art
yeah,
using the question marks. And there's
yeah.
things
Is
like
that available?
no, not at the
No.
moment, but
Okay.
I've got a lot of small projects like this that were just sort
Okay.
of prototypes, but who
Okay.
knows? Like, I'd love
Yeah.
to, I'd love to sort of, down the line have like almost like a sort of lifestyle brand where I can sort of
hmm
sell. I can make these pieces available to people like
Yeah.
through drops or like I'm going to
Yeah.
release like I'm going to release like a limited edition of 100
hmm
coasters, for example.
Yeah.
I think that leads into like sort of plans for the future as well. But
Yeah. Because I can see,
yeah,
I can see like a a chair
yeah.
being made of, yeah, being like different question marks making up a chair. I can see that.
I mean,
I
there's
can see
just
that.
like
There's
there's
so
so
many. It's,
much.
yes,
Yeah,
so many different things. Obviously, you got the obvious mugs. You got mugs, things
yeah.
like that. You got different things.
trying to see if
You
I've
got
got any
like
other stuff.
cutlery
Yeah,
as well.
I even did. There was. I've got lots of little things hidden away. This is maybe a fun one to show actually, because I've got these AirPods in at the
Okay.
moment. I did like I was sort of going through a phase of like trying to take almost like the question mark and make them into like they were called like thoughtful attachments. So like
Okay.
this one, for example,
Yeah.
let's put it on real quick. Oh, it's the other side. So you can kind of like almost connect it to your
Yeah. Okay.
AirPods, like a little
Yeah.
accessory. I mean, this is
Yeah.
a very early prototype, so it doesn't look
Yeah.
like amazing, but you
Yeah.
know, being able to take the idea and turn it into like a sort of
Yeah.
almost like a brand that people like, I guess they wear. That was quite fun for me as well. So
Yeah.
I got like a little bag of those little ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing is I think once you can start to make attach this theme to different everyday items, I think that's a game changer as well, because now your brand, your theme is connected to the everyday things that people do,
Yeah,
right?
it's like transforming it into, like you say, like an actual brand
Yeah.
rather than just like putting a question mark into a piece of art. It's like
Hmm.
actually turning that into a brand.
Yeah.
I think again, like I was mentioning earlier about like artists that I definitely take inspiration from,
Hmm.
like people like Cause,
Hmm.
Daniel Arsham.
Hmm.
Those are two of the bigger examples, but like
Yeah.
they have all
Those are
in
great ones.
they have all in some way
Yeah.
taken their art, but they've created a brand that everyone wants
Yeah.
their stuff, man.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely like for the future, plans for the future, like
Hmm.
I want to sort of in some way emulate their success and like be
Hmm.
able to have a brand that people I think relate to as well. I think the
Yeah.
question mark thing is kind of like there's an element of like having a brand that holds like a sort of a positive meaning in some
Yeah.
way as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Even like you got coat hooks.
yeah.
You
No,
know.
you need to be my guy. I was to like pay you for some of these ideas, man.
But yeah,
Co hooks, yeah,
it's so many possibilities. It's so
for
many
sure, man.
possibilities. So
Endless.
yeah, it's just so many, and you'll be able to continue to just explore different ones
Yeah,
as you go along. Anyway, exhibition in New York.
yeah.
So when is that happening?
So we are flying out on the 10th of May.
Okay.
But the actual, so it's an art fair. It's called Focus Art Fair, New York.
Okay. Okay.
And it runs from the 15th to the 18th of May.
Okay.
And it's in like, it's in a place called Chelsea Industrial. So it's in like a large kind of, I guess like a big event space. I haven't really seen
Okay.
the space. I've seen pictures of it, obviously, but
Okay.
it's quite hard to visualize without being
Yeah.
able to sort of head over there and check it out. But
Okay.
yeah, they've provided me with. They basically invited me to exhibit there in like a
Hmm.
booth. They've given
Okay.
me quite a generous space. Um,
Okay.
and that fair, I think the curation and the kind of the overall theme of the fair with the artists is
Hmm.
they were looking for artists that use technology
Okay.
in their work and sort of they're trying to create like a basically the whole fair is gonna feature artists that use technology and use I guess like modern practices
Okay.
and mediums in their work. So
Okay.
there'll be like a discussion of like how does technology actually impact art? Like is it a positive
Okay.
is it a positive thing? Like how do you use technology in your work? Do you think it adds more to the work? So I'll be on a panel doing a talk, I think,
Oh, cool.
on one of the days. So there'll be an interviewer asking me and a couple of other artists on a panel
Okay.
questions, and all of us are sort of, I think we're all artists who use technology as like our main, like the main part of our practice.
Yeah.
There's another guy who actually I'm actually quite a fan of his work too. His name's Florian Marcus.
Okay.
So he'll be there and he'll be on the panel as well. And he uses like it's called a CNC router, like a router,
Okay.
like a CNC machine, and basically he uses it with a paintbrush, and he'll use like this robot to paint these paintings that he's created first in the computer. So it's almost like very similar in a way to me. Like a lot of my work, it all starts off in the computer first, and then it's transformed using a piece of technology into a physical piece of work. So yeah, that's the theme of the whole thing. But yeah, there's not long left. There's about 2 weeks, I think. Yeah.
Have you thought about how you're going to present your work within the space that they're giving you?
Yeah, so I've created like I created a while back like a mock-up of the space. I think that's part of the advantage of being able to work in 3D and using like digital software is that I'm able to visualize spaces quite quickly. So they basically send over like a floor plan of like, here's your space, here's where you're going to exhibit, and then I'm able to like, as long as they give me measurements, I can basically create that room in 3D. And the great thing about that is that all of my work, like sculptural, even paintings, they all are created in the computer first. So I'm able to then drop the 3D models into that virtual space and then sort of like start moving them around and see like what works where. It was the same for the show in London. Like we basically made like a virtual mock-up of the space, and then we're able to like
I looked at that actually.
Yeah.
Like a virtual space. I think that's that was because you get to, especially for the New York one, you get to like live within the space before you actually go to the physical version.
Yeah, but there's always it's always fun though, because for me at least, like I'll be sort of mocking it all up digitally, and even though like the dimensions are accurate to the actual space, like as soon as you step foot in that space for the first time, often like that mock-up just like goes out the window, because actually like being stood in the space and being able to like feel the space and the size and get a sense of the distance from the walls, like it's very different from like looking at it on a screen and seeing it like from like top down, for example. Like being in the space like changes everything. So
I guess it's like a nice way to kickstart creating that experience, I guess.
Yeah, and like I'm sure that the space when we set up, like it's going to be fairly close to the mock-up that I've put together, but I'm sure there'll be bits that like I'll think when I'm there, like, oh, that's going to look better there, that's going to look better there. But one of the other things that should be quite interesting is that they've asked me to do like a live demo, like showing my 3D printing. So I'm still sort of trying to work out how I'm going to do this, but it might be that I'll have to like borrow a 3D printer or like rent one for like the few days that we're out there, because I can't take one of my 3D printers over to New York. Not at the moment. It's a bit big to sort of try and ship over. But yeah, if I can get my hands on a similar printer while I'm out there, I think that's going to be really interesting to like have a printer like almost as part of the space, as like the exhibition of like, here's how it actually starts and how it actually gets created. It's just like watching a 3D printer, especially as someone who hasn't got experience or like hasn't seen it before, it's like magic. I remember the first time that I saw a 3D printer like in person, I was like blown away. I was like, this is insane. Like if I was a kid and I had access to a 3D printer when I was like 10 years old, like,
Crazy.
it would have been so cool. So yeah, it'd be nice to see people reacting to actually seeing how the
Yeah.
technology works. And I also think it will allow people to sort of appreciate the work more, because
Mhm.
being able to actually see how the technology works, like they're going to realize, oh, there's a lot more work that goes into it than
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
simply clicking a button and then you get a sculpture. Like there's a lot of work that goes into it. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. The behind it's good. Like they'll get to see an element of the behind the scenes, so then
Yeah,
they can connect the dots with the final offering. I
exactly.
think it's always good when you get to see that 360 point of view.
Yeah.
So um you're not surprised at how creative something is or how great something is, because you understand the process that was required to put it together.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Having that access is great. I remember at the opening I was talking to you about Pitbull,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, um, when you Google Pitbull, the artist Pitbull comes up first,
Yeah. Before the
like
dog.
before the dog, right? Which is insane. Which is a testament to what Pitbull, the artist, has been able to do, right, as an artist. So what I'm saying to you is, with the question mark, it could get to the point where anytime someone sees a question mark, your work is automatically associated with it. Like it could get to
Yeah.
the point where you've reinvented the question mark so well that that's the first thing people think about.
Yeah. I mean, the Pitbull example, like, I mean, for him, I mean, that's just like the biggest sign of like you've made it. If
You made Yeah, exactly,
the
yeah,
fact that
yeah,
your artist name is Pitbull and people
yeah.
search
That's not
Pitbull,
even
and
your real name.
exactly, it's not even his
If I'm
name.
a Doug, if I'm a Pitbull Doug, I'm offended.
Exactly, you're gonna be thinking, who's this guy? Like,
Yeah, who's this?
yeah,
This is not even his real name,
yeah.
but
But I mean,
people identify with him first.
it's such a testament that like you've made it, because yeah, like if you're googling Pitbull and the dog is like the second result and he's the first result, it's like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
what more could you wish for? And
Yeah.
yeah, like I guess in my case, yeah, like if it gets to a point where almost like people see a question mark and like are sort of in some way even reminded of my work, then
Hmm.
again that's like a an ultimate sign of like you've kind of like quote unquote
Yeah.
made it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, even like I've had it like people already, like friends, particularly like one of our friends was like on holiday somewhere.
Hmm.
They might have been in Korea even, and they saw like a question mark on like a billboard or something, and they just took a picture of it and sent it to me. And I was like, oh, I thought of
Yeah.
you. It's
Yeah.
like kind of that's like the early stages of it. Obviously, they're friends, so they're
Yeah.
actively sort of thinking, oh, like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminded me of you. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the same. It's the same thing. I think like
Yeah. I'm not gonna
later
lie to
on.
you. I'm not gonna lie
Mm,
to you. I was at my friend's house,
yeah,
and one of his kids has like a question mark toy.
yeah,
I was just about to take a picture of it to send to you. Something happened though. I don't know. Something
yeah,
happened where I passed out, and then I woke up. Then I ended up going home. I think I fell asleep. But I was thinking about taking a picture of it and sending it to you. So it is starting.
yeah.
That
Like
is that is
the fact
starting.
that you even had the thought, like, or that it
Yeah,
reminded you of like my work, like,
yeah.
yeah, I think, yeah, because the question mark is like you don't really think of it as, if you're not familiar with my work and you just think of a question mark, it's just a
Mhm,
question mark. Like it's just
mhm.
a piece of punctuation that you use
Yeah,
when you're writing, or it doesn't have any other use other than just literally indicating a question in
Mm-hmm.
writing. So yeah, I think I've definitely found something that I'm able to like put like my thing on. I guess like, it's like
Mm-hmm.
my almost like my signature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not that like I would try and like copyright it or like because you
Mm-hmm.
can't trademark a question mark anyway.
Yeah.
Like, and I wouldn't even try
Yeah.
to because it's almost the fun of it is that you know anyone can use a question mark, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
like in like an advertisement on a billboard or
Mm-hmm.
something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, what does that actually mean? So
Yeah.
yeah,
But I
actually, no,
noticed
you'll
how.
notice, yeah,
Yeah. Oh, go on.
you'll notice as well. Like another interesting thing about the question mark that I noticed, just even going around London, is that brands and companies who like are marketing to you and advertising, they all use question marks as a way to like to get you to remember their ad. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the most powerful like advertising techniques is to like it's like basic marketing, but like, they'll ask a question. So it's like you see, I think with like Coca-Cola, for example, they have
Yeah.
these the plain boards and it just says thirsty with a question mark.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
thirsty, and it's like you think, oh, am I thirsty? Or
Yeah.
it's like you'll have like fast food restaurants be like hungry, like feeling hungry,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing.
Or one
So
of the most iconic ones. Got milk?
yeah, exactly. Even like it's like the brand like Guess as well. Like they obviously have a
Oh
question
yeah,
mark.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and they're I don't know if they're not really using it in the same literal way that I'm using it. It's more of like a
Mhm.
brand thing for them. But maybe there's a collaboration there potentially.
Yeah,
Who knows?
I think brands are gonna come running to you at some point as time goes on because I feel like it's how you're using the question mark. Like as you said, everybody can use a question mark if they want to, but it's not necessarily about the question. It's not about creating the question mark. It's how you use the question mark, how you
Yeah,
repackage it, how you reinvent it, how you place it in different worlds, and how you tell stories with it. That's that's the that's what you have. That's the ability that you have. That's like your thing in terms of how you're using the question mark as a tool, as like a
yeah,
vehicle for that. So
yeah. There's a
yeah.
vehicle for
So
like for
so
thought and thinking.
yeah. So how like how far do you want to take it? Have you thought about that or not yet? Not really.
Well, I
Like
mean, it's
how much do you really want to expand on the question mark theme?
yeah.
Like how many places do you want to enter or tap
I think
into?
there's definitely like there's definitely things that I wanna try, and I think even just touching on like the whole working with brands and things like I think there's a lot of fun stuff that could be done there, like collaborating with brands in like campaigns and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of stuff I think is really fun and something that I want to bit by bit you sort of build your way up working with more
Mm-hmm.
and more brands in that way. But um, I think one of the main things in terms of like what I want to do with the work, I definitely want to work bigger. So
Okay.
whether that's like sort of more public art installations, I think if you imagine the flower, for example, or like the
Mm-hmm.
tranquil, like the question mark
Mm-hmm.
tower. If you
Yeah.
imagine that, but like 5 meters tall, like
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like the work almost you're just taking it to the next level in terms of
Yeah.
the impact that that
Yeah.
has visually.
Yeah.
I think my work, the nice thing about it is that it works small scale, but it also like if you were to scale it way up, I think
Yeah.
it just takes it to a whole new level. And like
You know
there's a
what would
whole
be sick?
yeah
Yeah. Do you know what would be sick? You know the um any questions one. Could
yeah
you imagine if it was huge, right? But
yeah
where you could walk inside it
yeah and see the inside,
and see the
like the
inside. That
interactive.
would yeah, exactly. That would be crazy. And then you can also see the brain side, you can see the human side on the other side, but then you can walk inside as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, there's so many. sort of like bigger things that I want to be able to create. But there's with that comes it's financial, it's space limitations that obviously, given my current situation, I can't in my current studio space be like, right, I'm gonna make a 10 meter tall question mark head. It's like there's a whole like process of like outsourcing it to companies and having the warehouse space and the like shipping something that big as well. Like it's just a whole new ball game. So, but yeah, like I think making my work
that's
bigger
like a that's
and
like
just
a down
making
the
it more
line thing,
interactive. Yeah, down
That's
the line
definitely,
for sure. Like
yeah.
that's something that I think will come, and there'll be hopefully opportunities where like a company may reach out for like a commission or like an installation where I can I'll have the freedom to be able to take an idea and just be like, right, let's make a huge like public installation that lives outdoors, that people can actually walk around and experience. I think it's trying to make it even more interactive, that people can actually, rather than seeing it small like 30 centimeters square, they can see
It
it
is definitely a bigger
massive.
impact, when you can see it like the live version of it. I keep getting question mark references in my mind as I'm talking to you, but there's a Destiny's Child song, Independent Women. I don't know if you've heard it, but in the song, there's a constant theme where they say question, and then they ask a question. But it just came into my head.
There you go.
Now, but that's an example of like a question being like at the heart of like art, or at the heart of like something creative.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've realized, even with question marks, is it's a universal language.
For sure.
Everybody from all
Everyone.
parts of the world can identify with it.
Yeah. And that's
the
again
great
like
thing about
another thing, that helps me, being able to like show my work to people regardless of their language or their culture, is that everyone uses questions. Like they might not write it in the same way, but like everyone asks questions in their own languages. So it's a concept that I think anyone can really sort of grasp, regardless of like where they're from, what language they speak. And that's really important for me as well.
Because they might ask a question in their language, but the question mark can still be something that everybody can identify with,
Yeah.
The actual question mark. So that's the thing about it.
But I think like taking it forwards, like obviously collaborations, working bigger. I definitely want to exhibit my work in other countries. I think after New York,
you're starting with New York.
Yeah, obviously, like in the US, like we'll do New York and then get back. There might be something else in London potentially this year. But I think after that, like the next logical step for me is I think I need to and I want to exhibit in Korea. I think that's like the natural step. Like there's people waiting to be able to see my work in person. I really want to. I want to be able to show them.
I can see also Tokyo.
Maybe. Yeah, Japan. The scene in Japan is obviously, they have a lot of big art institutions there, and there's a big, again, like I think Asia, the art scene in Asia is a lot more sort of modern and like progressive, and they're sort of accepting of like newer ideas and newer styles. So like who knows where it will go, but I think Korea would be the next logical step. And I also think it'd be great to actually have like an impact with my art. So whether that's working with like charities and I think my work, I've already had the idea to sort of, I'd love to do like something a bit more charitable and sort of create a piece that sort of gets auctioned, and then the proceeds will go to charity, whether it's something like Alzheimer's UK or dementia, that
Okay.
kind of thing. It's obviously like linked to the brain and thinking, and sort of,
Okay. Yeah.
if I was able to even create a piece for them that then the proceeds of that um, go towards a charitable cause, I think
Yeah.
there's a responsibility as an artist. Like, what do you do with it? Do you just create art just for the sake of it
Yeah.
and just for the financial gain, or do you actually try and have a positive impact and make a difference with your art? So it's sort of thinking about things like that, like how do I actually have a positive impact later down the
Hmm.
line with my art, rather than just for the sake of financial gain, you know?
Hmm.
So that's another thing that I think is important for me as well. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Um. So how are you feeling about going to New York though?
feeling, yeah, I think feeling good. Obviously, there's definitely like an element of stress. You know, it's natural. Like there's
Hmm.
it's a big thing for me, and
Hmm.
it's a new thing for me exhibiting in another country. So
Out of comfort zone.
yeah, definitely
Yeah.
way out of the comfort zone. Sort of taking a big jump out there.
Hmm.
But I notice for me when I've got things coming up, even with the London show, I don't really get into like that state of like sort of looking forward to it until I'm like almost there.
Okay.
So I think for me, it'll be like, I reckon on the day when we set up the space, I think that's
Hmm.
when I'll be like really feeling the
Okay.
excitement and
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
I guess the nerves as well. Like there's
Yeah.
definitely like a sense of like nerves, like,
Hmm.
or uncertainty, like how are people going to
Hmm.
interact with it? But you know,
Yeah.
that's like,
That's something you can't
that's,
even control. So you don't
you
even have
can't
to.
control it, no.
Yeah. You don't even think about that.
But that's
You
like,
just let
that's
your
almost,
yeah, you let the fruits of your work just blossom, and you let that do
yeah.
what it needs to do, you know.
And
But
that leads into
definitely
like my
like
work as well, like
enjoy the
the
moment though.
uncertainty. Yeah.
Definitely enjoy the moment whilst you're there and soak up everything.
Well, I think it'll be a great opportunity as well to network and connect with new people out there.
Hmm.
Like New
Yeah,
York is obviously a really important place in
space.
the art world.
Yeah.
Um, and also just I'm really excited to be able to see other people's art as well. There's so many
Okay.
like galleries that I've always wanted to go and see in New
Okay.
York. Like
Yeah.
I think I said to you, like I went to New York as a kid on like a school
Yeah.
trip, and it was
Yeah.
just like a classic touristy like whistle stop
Yeah.
experience of New York,
Yeah.
not like a real experience of it.
Yeah. Not
So
as
yeah,
an
we'll
adult.
be
You haven't
going.
gone as an adult.
No, I haven't been there as
Yeah.
an adult, so there'll be lots of things that, you know, lots of food we want to try, like
Hmm.
lots of art we want to experience.
Hmm.
So I'm sure we'll have a checklist of like galleries that we want to go
Yeah.
and see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that'll be
Reach
really
out
nice as
to
well.
Matt Pacina, Studio
Oh,
Guapo.
you told me about him, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Reach out to Matt Pacina. Maybe he might be around, and you guys can connect because he does
Yeah, I mean,
furniture. He does
if there's
furniture. A lot of furniture and different things. He makes a
yeah,
lot of different
if
furniture.
there's people out there like based in New York, because I don't really have many connections with people in New York.
Hmm.
I've got like one or two people I know in other states in the US, but
Hmm.
actually in NYC, like I don't really know anyone. So
Okay.
it'd be great to connect with some people. I've got like
Yeah.
I can invite people to the fair as well. I've got like
Okay.
passes I can send out. So
Yeah.
yeah, if I can maybe connect with some people beforehand, that would be really cool
Okay.
to meet up and connect.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Cool. Cool. All right. Well, good. Yeah. Just make sure you enjoy the New York
I definitely will.
exhibition.
I'll try.
Definitely. Yeah. Be excited about it because this is you, and this is something that you're creating. You know, so you're creating your own path. So yeah, be
Yeah,
excited about that. And
part of the
yeah,
journey.
this was great. This was amazing. It went from us meeting at the pop up event to me coming to your solo exhibition and us now having this conversation. So this has been great.
Yeah, it's
I think
really good.
I have a better understanding as well of just how you operate um, creatively as well. So this
I'm
is
glad
great.
to hear that, man. Thanks for having me on. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really interesting to like to chat about my work, and it's really cool to see that you seem to like really understand what it is I'm trying to do with the work as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
man, it means a lot. Thank you so much.
yeah. We'll chat soon, definitely.
For sure, man.
Yeah.